Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're plunging into a show that's, well, it's taken the world by storm. Demon Slayer, Kimetsu no Yaiba. You've probably seen it, right? That incredible animation, the really intense action, and characters you just get attached to immediately. But here's the thing. There's actually a surprising amount of depth underneath all that, especially, I think, in how it treats its villains. So our mission today is to really unpack how Demon Slayer does this, how it takes centuries of Japanese folklore, religion, cultural ideas, particularly around the Oni, the flesh-eating demons, and twist them into these really tragic figures. We're going to explore some pretty complex themes: empathy, perseverance, what it even means to be human when you're surrounded by monsters. And hopefully by the end, you'll see this isn't just your standard good versus evil story. It's more like a meditation on the monster inside us all and what that means for good and evil itself. Okay, so let's start right at the beginning. Before we get totally lost in Tanjiro's world, breathing styles and cheering blades, all that, we really need to understand the backstory, the folklore that inspired it all. These Oni didn't just pop out of nowhere for the manga. They have this fascinating history. The Japanese kanji for Oni, that symbol, it actually comes from Chinese, pronounced gum. And originally it meant something more like a mate ghost, a formless soul, very abstract.
Yeah, exactly. And what's really interesting there is that initial idea, something unseen, something hidden. As that concept moved into Japanese culture, it started to take shape, gain substance. For instance, there's a 10th century Japanese dictionary, the Wamiruijushu. It suggests the Japanese word oni itself might come from on or ono, which means to hide or conceal. So you have this hidden spirit idea, but then it starts showing up in early texts as something much more concrete, more physical. You've got the Izumo no Kuni Fudoki from the 8th century that mentions a one-eyed Ani eating a guy. And the Nihon Shoki from around 720 AD describes an Oni wearing a hat, watching a funeral. The little details like that show the shift, right? It's not just a spirit anymore. It's a tangible monster, something you can see, something that can hurt you. And crucially, something you could potentially kill. That physicality. That's absolutely foundational if you want to build an action story like Demon Slayer around it.
That really makes you think, doesn't it? That ancient idea of Oni being hidden ones. How does Demon Slayer pick up on that? Do we see demons hiding or disguising themselves?
Oh, absolutely. It's all over the series. Think about Muzan's demons, especially the powerful ones. They don't always just rampage around in monstrous forms. They often blend in. They walk among humans, hiding in plain sight, doing terrible things from the shadows. You mentioned Doma earlier, running a cult. Yoko posing as this, grotesque artisan. It's that same ancient feeling, isn't it? The Oni is something concealed, living right next to human society until it decides to show its true, horrifying face.
That's a really great connection. Okay, so they start as these hidden, then physical sweats, but then Buddhism comes into the picture. How did that change things? How did it give the Oni a kind of moral role?
Right, Buddhism had a huge impact. It started to syncretize the native Oni ideas with figures from its own cosmology, like Yaksha and Rakshasa, these man-eating beings from Hindu-Buddhist traditions. And this is where the Oni get a real moral and cosmological purpose. They stop being just random monsters. They become these terrifying wardens of Buddhist hell, Jigoku. They work for Kinyama or Enma Daish, punishing sinners. It gives them a function in the cosmic order. But here's the really crucial part, I think, especially for Demon Slayer. Buddhism introduced the idea that being an Oni wasn't necessarily about being a different species. It was a state of being. A human soul could actually fall into it. Someone who lived a truly wicked life, beyond redemption, might be reborn as an Oni after death. Or maybe as a Gaki, a hungry ghost. This idea of humans transforming into monsters because of their actions or their nature, that's the direct ancestor in folklore for Demon Slayer's demons. They were all human ones.
Wow, okay, so it's not just a monster, it's a fallen human. That link is powerful. And isn't there something about colors too? The 5 colors of Oni representing human feelings?
Yes, exactly. That adds another layer. Traditionally, Onis are often depicted in 5 colors, linked to the 5 primary worldly passions. Or bonjus in Buddhism, the things that block enlightenment. You have red for greed, blue for anger or hatred, yellow or white for restlessness or attachment, green for sloth or apathy, and black for doubt or ignorance. It's a very direct visual metaphor.
So how does Demon Slayer tap into that specific idea, the Oni as like walking embodiments of human flaws?
It takes that core concept and runs with it. Demon Slayer basically makes those internal failings, greed, rage, envy, despair, obsession, the literal fuel for its demons. It manifests these flaws as their very being and often as their powers or blood demon arts. Every demon's backstory shows you how some deep human failing or some terrible suffering made them vulnerable, made them say yes to Muzan's blood. They became a physical embodiment of their past trauma, their negative emotions, their unresolved issues. So when Tanjiro fights them, yeah, he's fighting a monster, but he's also confronting a kind of externalized, warped form of human suffering.
That's a really powerful way to frame it. Okay, let's talk about the classic look. You know, the image everyone has of big hulking horns, usually wearing a tiger skin loincloth, right? And carrying that big iron club, the Kanemoji. Where does that specific imagery come from? It feels too specific to be random.
It's definitely not random. It's deeply rooted in traditional cosmology, particularly on Muda, the Japanese system of divination based on yin-yang and the 5 elements. According to this system, the northeasterly direction was considered the Kimon, the demon gate. It was seen as unlucky, the direction evil spirits came from. And the Chinese zodiac, which Onmyodu uses, the northeast corresponds to the ox, Ushi, and the tiger, Toratora. So the Uni's horns represent the ox, and the tiger skin loincloth represents the tiger. It's a visual pun, almost embodying the unlucky Ushitora direction. People even built temples specifically to the northeast of cities like Kyoto to act as spiritual guards against this direction. And maybe the most vital piece of folklore for Demon Slayer is that established tradition of humans turning into Oni because of intense emotion. Think about extreme jealousy or rage or resentment. The famous Hanya mask in No Theater represents a woman transformed into a demon by jealousy. And then you have legends like Shutenuji. He was maybe a real bandit leader, but the stories turned him into this powerful demonic king. He's a perfect archetype for someone like Muzan Kibutsuji, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely, that Shutenuji figure. A human leader becoming a demon king through, well, his own power and perhaps negative traits. That sounds exactly like Nuzen's trajectory. Okay, so we have this incredibly rich foundation from folklore. How does Demon Slayer take all of that and sort of systematically update it for its own story, blending that old magic with something almost scientific?
Well, it starts with a really big departure, right at the genesis of the demons. In Demon Slayer's world, they aren't coming from Buddhist hell or just manifesting from pure negative emotion. It's framed more like biohorror. Every single demon, except Muzan, was human first. They're transformed by Muzan Kibutsuji's blood and Muzan himself. He became the first demon through a failed medical experiment, trying to cure his illness using the mythical blue spider lily. So it's presented almost like a disease, an infection. People like Nezuko are turned completely against their will. That shift is huge. It means the demons aren't inherently evil from the start. They're victims too, in a way. Tragic figures, which immediately changes how you, the audience, look at the whole fight. And it makes Tanjiro's quest for a cure seem logical, noble, not just wishful thinking.
That completely reframes the conflict, yeah. It's not just extermination, it's potentially salvation. And building on this unique origin, the series sets up very clear rules for its demons. It's like a hard magic system built from folklore. Can you walk us through the basics, their powers, their weaknesses?
Sure. So baseline, all demons get immense strength, crazy speed, and that incredible regeneration. They heal almost instantly from most wounds, which makes them seem immortal. Their power increases the more of Muzan's blood they receive, and also by consuming humans. That's key. But they have very specific, almost absolute weaknesses. Number one is sunlight. Direct sunlight makes them disintegrate into ash. Gone. Which is why everything happens at night, right? All the demon attacks, all the Demon Slayer missions, it dictates the rhythm of the story. The only other sure way to kill them is decapitation, but only with a Nichiren blade. These special swords are made from ore that's constantly absorbs sunlight, so they carry that same power. And then there's wisteria flowers. Demons hate them. They're poisonous. The Demon Slayers use the essence to create toxins that's Shinobu Kocho's specialty. It's clever, taking these traditional folkloric weaknesses, sunlight, maybe certain plants, and making them into consistent, almost scientific rules for this world.
Yeah, that consistency is so engaging. It gives every fight clear stakes, clear tactics, and as demons get stronger, they develop these unique powers, right? The blood demon arts, Kekijutsu. You mentioned they reflect the demon's past. How does that connection force us to see the villain differently?
It forces you to see the human behind the monster, even as they're using these terrifying powers. The Kekijutsu aren't just random cool abilities, they're deeply personal. They often spring directly from the demon's core trauma, or their biggest obsession back when they were human. Each blood demon art is like a distorted echo of their human life. Look at Akaza, upper rank 3. As a human, he devoted himself to martial arts to protect the people he loved. His blood demon art, Destructive Death, is that same martial arts perfected, but twisted, stripped of any purpose but destruction for its own sake. Or Rui, lower rank 5. He craved family connection because he was frail and isolated as a human. His thread manipulation literally creates a family bound by threads of fear and control. A total perversion of what he wanted. And Kokushibo, upper rank 1, a former demon slayer himself. He developed moon breathing. His blood demon art literally fuses that breathing style with his demonic body to create these crescent moon blades. It's the ultimate symbol of his envy, his corruption of his own skill. It's just brilliant character work through powers.
So if the power itself tells the story of their fall, then defeating them, cutting off that power, it really is like ending a tragic story, isn't it? Maybe even offering a kind of mercy.
Exactly. The narrative often frames it that way. It's a release. Their suffering, both as a human and then as a demon, finally ends. And Muzan doesn't just let his demons run wild. There's that tricked hierarchy, the 12 Kazuki.
Yeah.
Upper ranks, lower ranks, the number etched in their eyes. It sets up a clear ladder of threats for Tanjiro and the others, right? Like climbing levels in a game. It shows you just how overwhelming the challenge is.
Right. It structures the whole journey. But that system, the 12 Kazuki, it feels like more than just a power ranking. It seems to reflect Muzan's whole philosophy, doesn't it? Maintained by fear, ruthless pragmatism.
Oh, absolutely. It's a perfect microcosm of Muzan's nihilism. He believes true strength comes from cutting off all human weakness, emotions, connections, morality. It's all about pure, selfish power and survival. The Kazukis are kept in line by terror. He disposes of them casually if they fail. He encourages rivalry. It shows his utter contempt for any kind of bond. What does this reveal about his idea of strength? It reveals he thinks strength is isolation. Power comes from being alone, superior, unbound. And this sets up the fundamental conflict of the whole series. Muzan's strength through severing ties versus Tanjiro's strength, which comes from his ties, his compassion.
That brings us right to the heart of it, the themes. One of the most striking things Demon Slayer does is those deathbed flashbacks for the demons. Just as they're dying, fading away, we see their human past, often poverty, abuse, terrible loss, things that made them vulnerable. How does that technique mess with our emotions as viewers? We should hate them, but
we can't. Not entirely. It's a deliberate move to complicate your response. It humanizes them right at the end, forcing you to grapple with the fact that these monsters were once people, often people who suffered immensely. So killing a demon, it rarely feels like a simple victory. It's almost always tinged with sadness. You remember the spider mother feeling peace, or Gutaro and Daki finding each other in the afterlife. Tanjiro himself often mourns for them. He acknowledges the human they lost. He offers a prayer. That's pretty radical for a shonen hero fighting monsters.
yeah, Tanjiro's compassion is really something else, kind of subverts the whole genre trope. His defining trait is that empathy. He uses his sense of smell, weirdly enough, to detect their sadness, their regret. He sees the victim inside the monster. But here's the thing. It doesn't make him weak, does it? He has this incredible duality, fierce in battle, but gentle in the end. How does that work?
I think his empathy is precisely why his determination is so strong. His kindness isn't passive. It's an active choice he makes, even in the face of horror. He fights the atrocities with absolute fury because he values life and connection so deeply. But then, in their final moments, he can offer that gentle hand because he understands the tragedy of how they got there. And this is the core ideological battle, isn't it? Muzan's nihilism, discard emotion, gain power versus Tanjiro's belief that strength comes from connections, from love, from compassion. Tanjiro winning in the end. It validates his entire worldview. It says real strength isn't being invulnerable. It's keeping your heart open, even when the world is cruel.
And right in the middle of all this, you have Nezuko, Tanjiro's sister, the ultimate anomaly, a demon who protects humans, refuses human flesh. She's a living contradiction. How does she function as like a bridge between these two worlds? What does she prove?
Nezuko is just. She's the embodiment of the series' main themes. She is living, breathing proof that the line between human and monster isn't absolute. That love, that willpower, can override even the demonic instinct. Her existence is what forces Tanjiro and us into that morally gray space. He can't just hate all demons because his sister is one. She's the one thing Muzan can't understand or control. And then when she conquers the sun, that changes everything. She becomes Muzan's new obsession, the key to his own twisted goals. She really is the ultimate symbol of hope, of redemption, of the power of that human bond.
It's amazing how the themes and characters are so tightly woven. And you can't really talk about Demon Slayer without talking about the anime adaptation by Ufotable. The visuals, the sound, it's not just decoration, is it? It feels essential to the storytelling.
Oh, completely essential. Ufotable's work is phenomenal. They have this way of blending gorgeous 2D character animation with really dynamic 3D CGI for the environments and effects. It creates such visceral action. And then there's the compositing all the lighting effects, the atmospheric particles like mist or embers, the way they use focus. It makes even quiet emotional moments feel incredibly cinematic. You see that contrast all the time, right? The almost traditional beautiful fluidity of the breathing styles, like moving ukiyo-e prints sometimes. And then you contrast that with the often grotesque, chaotic, truly disturbing look of the blood demon arts. That visual difference reinforces the core conflict between order and chaos, humanity and monstrosity.
Right, the spectacle isn't just for show. It is the substance in many ways. It makes you feel the fear, but also the tragedy, often at the same time.
Yeah.
And the music, the sound design plays a huge role too. Yuki Kajura and Goshinina's score.
How does that guide our feelings, especially when a demon dies?
The sound design is incredibly smart. Characters often have their own musical themes, even some of the demons, which helps you connect emotionally, sometimes even before you know their full story. But the really powerful thing is how the soundscape shifts. During a fight, the music might be terrifying, discordant, full of dread. Then as the demon is dying, as they remember their human life, the music often changes completely. It becomes sorrowful, maybe melodic, almost like a requiem. That shift cues you emotionally. It softens the horror, brings out the tragedy, and encourages that empathy the show is aiming for. It reinforces the message without needing any dialogue.
So wrapping this all up, it's pretty clear Demon Slayer is doing much more than just delivering amazing action. It's deeply engaged with Japanese folklore, taking the ancient figure of the Oni and transforming it into something profoundly tragic, forcing us to think about suffering, about empathy, about what keeps us human. I think the core message, really, is that true strength isn't about building walls around yourself or denying pain. It's about facing a really harsh world with your heart still open. So as you think about this deep dive, here's something to maybe mull over. What other old myths, other monsters from folklore around the world, if you gave them this kind of empathetic, complex reimagining, what profound human truth could they reveal for us today?